the terminology around white privilege, I think, even though it put a label on something, with the intent to really provide a platform that we can work on it and move past that, I think sometimes rub people in the wrong way, right? And sometimes even provide a higher hurdle for you to overcome. And I think we were talking about that, and I think that was a little bit of what happened with you. It happened with me as well. So it would be great if you share your own perspective on what that terminology meant to you, and how you came about changing that in a way that made sense to you, especially to propel you forward, right?
Yeah. So for me, it have to share a little bit of a story, but the first thing I'd say is that historically, when I hear the term white privilege, it just carries a very negative connotation, because when I hear privilege, it's almost like, from old England or something. It's like you have a privileged life. These things have been given to you because you're royalty, or you have something that you were born with, and honestly, that doesn't resonate with me. So when I was, for example, I grew up in Colorado, New Mexico, and there was a period of time in New Mexico where I was in the minority. The school that I went to had about 70 to 80% Hispanic kids, and there were times where I was bullied and so forth. And so so for me, I had those kind of experiences. Like, I don't feel like I was privileged. And so if you kind of fast forward today, when that concept is discussed a lot more, it just really closed me off to the potential that I was part of any kind of problem, especially relates to, like, Black Lives Matter or African Americans in that situation. So in the last year, I was able to participate in something called Advocacy in Action as a part of the GAN DAO ERG. And as a part of that program, we did some, listening, book discussions. And one of the books that I read was something called Why Do All the Black Kids Sit Together in the Cafeteria? And there was a friend of ours named Jared Davis who led us on a discussion of the first part of that book. But something that he said really resonated with me, and that is the idea that don't think about it in terms of white privilege. Just think about it as having an advantage. Can you agree that maybe you have an advantage? And as the discussion went on, I started to think about, there's one of the guys that I'm mentoring now shared the fact that when he first started working at Dow, he bought a brand new car, and then the next day or so got pulled over. And, it's like, what was I doing wrong? And he said, well, it looks like you probably stole that car. And so for me, that was just like, I could see that it was emotional for him. And honestly, it was, made me a little bit emotional too. Cause like, he did nothing wrong. He's Black. But the implication was that he must have stolen because Black people can't afford cars like that. And so for me, that was kind of a moment where I realized that, no, I don't like the term advantage, but I do have it, I don't like the term white privilege, but I certainly have an advantage. I've never been pulled over because of the color of my skin. I've also heard stories of where some women, when they go into hotel rooms by themselves, will go and check their closets to make sure that there's nobody waiting to assault them. So there's a lot of things that have not happened to me in my life because of my gender and because of my skin color. And so for me, that was kind of the turning point. It's, maybe I need to stop putting up a wall when I hear the term white privilege and start to think about, maybe I have an advantage.